Ms. Diane Curry is a native of Malvern, Arkansas. She graduated in 1972, attended Henderson, graduating in 76 with a bachelor in business and marketing, and then receiving her master's in 2010 from Capitol University in business and marketing. Excuse me, the BA is in administration and master's in business and marketing. She has retired from the state of Arkansas, and she worked in education, banking, and finance, and she's been a tax professional for over 25 years. She is the president of the Little Rock branch of the NAACP. She also ran for Congress as a Democratic candidate in the 2nd Congressional District in Arkansas. She was elected to the Little Rock School Board in 2006, and she served as board president in 2009 and in 2013. She says, I have worked and continue to work as a true advocate for children and family issues for the best quality of education for our Black and brown children. She's the proud mother of Janae Curry, 2013 graduate of UALR, public accountant, and grandmother of Jamari Johnson in middle school at Horace Mann. She's a proud member of Union AME Church since the mid-1980s. She joined under the leadership of Reverend J.J. Brown. She works as a missionary, lay officer, Arkansas Conference lay officer, and social justice choir member and social action committee, and the Arkansas Conference level Women's Missionary Society. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. She served under my friend, Reverend Randolph Martin. She is the state treasurer for NAACP for years 2017 through 19. As previously stated, Little Rock branch president. She previously served as commissioner and cultural diversity for the city of Little Rock, appointed by 2 governors to serve on the Arkansas Service Commission on volunteerism, peer reviewer for grants for the Arkansas Service Commission, served as officer for local and state PTA and legislative liaison, 22th recipient of Lifetime PTA Pen Award, life member of Pulaski County Democratic Women, and life member of Arkansas Democratic Black Caucus. Received the Pinnacle Award for Arkansas Board Association, School Board Association, for attaining over 200 hours of continuing education, and received Distinguished Leader Award for Superlative Leadership. Received Distinguished Leader Award from Chairman of the Democratic Party in 2018. Co-founder and organizer of the Justice Now Coalition, and volunteer with the Martin Luther King Commission on various community events. And she serves on the task force for UAMS on COVID research. So as you can see, a very credentialed, well qualified, and a lot of accolades for our speaker. So without further ado, I introduce to you none other than Ms. Diane Curry.
Wow. I just want to say greetings, and I'm truly honored, President Witherspoon, for even asking me to come and talk on the subject that we're going to be talking on today. And it's an extreme pleasure. As you can see, I have had a rounded experience, and I'm grateful because God has blessed me to be able to be in some of the places I've been, probably for over 30 years. I know it's over 30 years because I'm 67 years old. So I'm truly grateful. I hope I don't look 67, okay? However, I'm just truly grateful God has blessed us to be here at this time, considering where we've been in the last, 18 months or so with the pandemic. So a lot has happened in that time frame with the pandemic. So I just encourage you as we move forward, stay masked up, get the vaccines if you can. You know, I'm encouraging that. Of course, we are encouraging that. If not, wear your mask. And you're not only protecting yourself, but you're protecting others as well. So I do believe that we need to do all we can to encourage our families, friends, to do what they need to do in that particular arena. You know, like I said, thank President Witherspoon for inviting me to talk on the subject of what we know now is redistricting in our state and country. We all know that every 10 years, and some of us may not have paid much attention to the fact that we were being redistricted every 10 years. And I think as I've aged some over, of course, in age, it's brought more attention to me as an individual and for my community to make sure that we are aware how important this is, because this does affect who represent us. And if people run for office, then we know how important that is, that we know how we're being represented. And it affects us at all levels. So when you talk about redistricting in the state of Arkansas, it's based on the census that was just taken. And that data was just released, I believe somewhere around the end of the month, around the 30th of September. I think it was in its final form. So we're working from data to redistrict our communities. And I mean redistrict our communities being. I want to throw out a couple of terminologies. And if you have any questions at any time, feel free to show your hands, wave your hand, or put your flag up. I know that I probably should ask first, who are elected officers that's on the Zoom with us today that can share that they are elected officers? And I know you will have a better understanding of what we're talking about, because we're affected by all levels of government, from the state, from the congressional to the state House and Senate, city council, school boards, justice of the peace. I think city council is called quorum court in some locations. And let me see what else is elected, but there are other constables. So there are a lot of terminologies. We have our judgeships. So there are a lot of things that are affected by the redistricting, and all of those lines are affected. So this is what we're talking about today. Redistricting, to me, as we know it, it affects voters, how we register voters, how we follow up on voters that may not have voted in a while. So you got to re-register people to vote. And also, this is an encouragement to our communities to check your registration before a major election comes up. Because if you haven't voted, I believe it used to be 4 years, I believe, if I'm correct, that if you hadn't voted, you could be purged from the list. And I believe it still stands the same. If not, then somebody let me know that. But that's about around the time. And I know that recently in the county that I'm from, which is Pulaski County right now, and I've been here, like you say, since I actually graduated in 1976. I kind of stayed here in Little Rock. I was in Cleveland, Ohio for maybe about a year, but I came back to Arkansas, okay? But anyway, if you haven't voted in an election in 4 years, you can be purged off of those lists. So you got to always kind of check. And it is up to those officials in some of those offices, like your county clerk's offices, to kind of follow up and make some type of notifications to individuals saying, that your voter registration is expired. And I don't know if all counties do that, but I think they're supposed to, okay? And if not, then it's up to people like ourselves, NAACP, community groups that, can inform our public that, are you a registered voter? So that's why that's probably one of our key things that we do with NAACP is we work on voter registration. Of course, our major thing is working with cases that may be discrimination, and discriminations of all types as well. I'm proud to have served the Little Rock NAACP for the last year as interim, and this year I was elected as president. So kind of bringing you where I've been and where I'm coming from. So at this time, I just want to throw out a couple things about redistricting that are very important. Some of the legal things that we may want to make a note that, if you're not up to par with the discussion on redistricting, you want to know what's happened with the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It ties to the 14th and the 15th Amendment of the United States Constitution. It deals with voter delusion, equal protection clauses, and there is a standard list of items that should be followed when redistricting occurs. Right now, where we are in the state of Arkansas, just this week, the legislature just finished approving several bills that have now been sent. They voted on, and the consensus was to vote on House Bill 1982. You want to make a note on that. And I can definitely, if I know Brother Witherspoon already know what those bills are. 1982, House Bill 1982 and Senate Bill 743. Those are the two bills that have been sent up to the governor now for a approval. He either approves it or he can veto it. So right now we're awaiting his decision. I believe they don't count Sunday. So I think by October the 14th, we will have a yay or a nay from our governor as to whether or not he approves those bills. I'm trying to see if I have any hands on that and see if anybody have any questions about that. Right now, we are awaiting the governor's veto or approval of those particular bills for the redistricting for congressional. Yes, Ms. Parks.
Are those, you're going to explain to those what those bills are in a minute?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I'll definitely share that, what I know about them.
Okay.
Okay. And well, let me start here. The process started with a total of about 36 bills that were submitted to the legislature, and they called a special session. And I don't think they dismissed the session. They're still on hold, I believe, until after, to see what the governor's going to do on what they submitted. And plus there are a few other bills that they were reviewing. I believe they're going to be in session past the 14th, to my knowledge right now. House Bill 1982 was presented by initially Senator English, which is out of Pulaski County, one of our senators, and another bill, which is Senate Bill 743. Their Senator English final bill is a combination of an initial bill that was submitted by Representative Speaks, which is from the northwest part of the state. But guys, 36 bills is a lot of bills. However, the importance of what I'm saying on that, Representative Speaks initially presented 1959 and it was amended. It was amended over in kind of not the middle of the night, but at night, and represented, I think it was on Tuesday this week, that bill was amended and resubmitted in the form of 1982. And that was the final bill, along with a Senate bill that was presented by Senator English, and the House bill was presented by Representative Speaks from the northwest part of the state. And in those bills, that was the bill that was submitted that split counties, county lines. That's what this congressional map. And the legislature has the responsibility of doing that every 10 years. That's their responsibility. In that bill, they have guidelines that were presented to them by the Legislative Bureau. And I was on a talk show this morning with Representative Fred Love and a couple of other community leaders. And I think one of the key factors is that you can present a bill that's within the guidelines of the requirements of how redistricting should be done. And some of the goals in the districting goals should be criteria that was laid out to all of the people that's presented bills. Some of the criteria and goals that should have been met: one person, one vote, within a 5% deviation of how it's organized in the mapping process. And maps have to be designed by people that are professionals that know how to map, how to do the mapping. They are done by professionals. That's one criteria. There are several criteria that are required. Section 2 of the Voters Act of 1965 should be abided by, which prohibits discrimination based on race, color, and language minority. Item 3 is equal protection clauses of the 14th. Remember, I mentioned about the 2 amendments, the 14th and the 15th amendments of the Constitution. It also asks them to look at compactness, one of 4 geographic principles. It's kind of what they call the eyeball test. It refers to the shape of the districts. A district could be round or square, but it should never be what you call oblong or jagged. Contiguous, continuity, common borders. Common borders mean you don't want to have borders that are not connected if you're dealing with the common interests of a community. And we can talk about that a little bit later. The core of existing districts, whole counties, whole cities, whole precincts is the goal. Minimizing the splitting of political subdivisions. These are some of the key guidelines. Community of interest, commonalities of economic, social, political, cultural, ethnic, or religious interests should be all kept in mind. Continuity of representation, incumbents. We have people that are incumbents, but it's not a requirement, but it should be considered. It should be considered for voters. Try to avoid making incumbents run against each other. And number 9 I have, and this was taken, really this information is taken from the Board of Apportionments for the state of Arkansas. That they're the ones who are responsible for setting the major guidelines, and they try to stay within those guidelines. Minimizing partisanship, not targeting or giving preferential treatment. So beware of salamanders, little fingers, little edges that could be drawn out certain ways. It should be, like you say, in the shape of contiguous, where they're not drawn where someone is really singled out. It's just like if in discrimination cases that people can be singled out, that they'll single one person out and not single another person out. It's kind of some of the guidelines on discrimination. So just kind of stating a few of those points are some of the key factors. So those particular maps were drawn, and there were over 36 presented. Out of those, at least 11 or 9 of those, it's been stated 2 different ways. And I know of the group that I've worked with. We are aware of the 9 maps that did not split counties, whole cities, and whole precincts. And we know that on those particular maps, Little Rock was split in 2 in the city. The city itself, just Little Rock, was split. And the whole county was split. We have 3 splits in the county where part of our county went up to the 1st district in a section. Part of it went down to the 4th district, which is where Hot Springs is in the 4th district. Am I correct? 4th congressional district as we speak, if I'm not mistaken. And then part went to 1st district, 4th district, and 2nd district, which is where we are. So we had people from the Little Rock area that was split out into different congressional districts, and they may stay. For instance, I gave an example this morning. In my situation, I stay close to Baseline Road. I can kind of almost see it from my backyard. And as it travels over through the backside of Baseline to I'm on the northern side of Southwest Little Rock, and Baseline is about less than a mile away. So part of that whole area was split into the 4th district. So you can kind of see where they had an opportunity to not split cities and county lines, but they chose to vote. And you'll have to look at the voting record. I don't have exactly the voting record out there, but there was their majority voted for those particular maps, which was really a disenfranchisement to voters, especially in this area. And there are also some other areas of the state, I believe up in the northwestern part where Fort Smith area was done somewhat the same, and a little bit up in the eastern part of the state because of how the split occurred. So when we look at what has happened with the map that's existing, it's not met the test of the requirements of the redistricting, although it was voted on. So that's kind of where we are with what happened with so far as, and the congressional map is the first map that's done. Once that's approved, then there's about a 30-day window, and a new map for House and Senate is then done, and then cities meet and they do their lines. Then school districts meet and they do their lines, and they probably already have some idea, or they have staffing that's already started to work on possibilities on how their lines will fall in line with what's happened with the congressional map. And that should be presented within the next, 7 to 8 days that we move forward in the redistricting. So right now, that's kind of how this has occurred. And, that's 10 years that we have to live with that. And so you all think about that. 10 years you have to live with maps that were drawn that we really feel that people were disenfranchised, and we know people have been disenfranchised. So our goals are not to disenfranchise anyone. And also proper notice being given to people where they could respond is a requirement. Even if you do it at city level, JP level, you got to give some kind of notices out to your public as to if they have an understanding. If they don't have understanding, we hope that this is going to be a campaign for more awareness to be done to our public, to be more involved with this and try to get an understanding on how our communities could be affected by disenfranchisement. Once those okay, yes, ma'am.
So could you explain to me how you feel how people have been disenfranchised? Do you think that the minority vote has been split up more so that they can't get at so that minorities may have a difficult time voting someone in that they want to have voted in, or how is, I know I should know this, I just don't. I hear about this.
I can give you my opinion, okay?
Okay.
And somebody else may want to share that. Well, the way that I understand it, and I've taken this on as kind of a project, basically the disenfranchisement that I see based on some of the things we've learned from the training is that, as I've stated, you do not split counties where you don't have to. And there were over 11 or 9 maps that did not split counties. On the original map that was presented to the state legislature, it did not split counties at all. And then they came back and they split those counties. So it make you wonder, well, why wouldn't you have presented the map that didn't split, but you presented the one that did? And there were over 11 out of the 36 maps, or 9, that provided a non-split of counties. Because, you know, for instance, Pulaski County, if you're in a statewide race, you're going to have to carry a pretty good large percentage of Pulaski County to win any kind of statewide. So when you look at how it was split, that could be a delusion of the voter population. And it was over in the areas where it was split, there were over 70% minority and Black and brown voters. So those percentage reflect in those precincts that were affected by that. So you may want to look, as you look at your Hot Springs district area, you may want to look at your effect from there, but you really need to look at it by precincts on if anything was affected in this presentation. I don't know if you all have had a chance to really decipher that as an organization, but that's some of the things that we've done as a, you know, kind of collaborative group here in the Little Rock Jacksonville branch, North Little Rock, and of course, Little Rock branch, and some other community leaders. We've kind of been on top of kind of trying to figure out what's going on and kind of keep up with it if we could. I hope I've answered you a little bit.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Can you imagine now if it goes into effect? My neighbor, it's kind of like my neighbor across the street will be voting in 4th district. And if I was in Jacksonville, over in the Glenview area, in the North Little Rock and Glenview area, they're going to be split off to the 1st district. And the 1st district probably starts at around Lone Oak up all the way up the eastern border of the state, all the way up to Crittenden County over to Helena. So people from that area are going to be voting with people from that area from a congressional standpoint. But, you know, it's just about the lines being not contiguous in the way that they were drawn. And they could have been made contiguous, but they chose not to do that in the voting that was done. Now we have a big job still ahead of us, because we have now the discussion on the House and Senate side, and maps, a new set of maps will be presented by, well, you know, the mapping for the House and Senate is done by your top, there's 3 people. It's kind of depending on who your governor is, your attorney general, and secretary of state. They will make a decision as a body, because they're the ones that's in the office right now. So they will make a decision as to what map or maps they will accept as the maps for the House and Senate drawing. It's up to those 3 entities, 3 officers that's in state control of the state of Arkansas right now. It was done by Democrats the last time, 10 years ago. And I think the important thing that I've learned from all of this process is that last time, nobody really challenged the Democrats, and there was some gerrymandering done. But because there was nothing filed in the courts to fight against that, it was left. And I think kind of in the North Little Rock area, Jacksonville area, some of the areas where it had gerrymandering done, and a few other small areas where there was actually gerrymandering, but it would have to be challenged in the courts. And because of the fact, there's a big controversy still with the issue that I'm gonna read those notes in the chat. There's a controversy still right now because we don't really have parts of our Voting Rights Act approved, and that's what House Bill Congressional HR 1 is. We need a voting rights bill reenacted. And the one that's on the floor right now for approval is the John Lewis HR 1 bill. So that's one way we could advocate to try to get changes in place, because we really would like to see that bill passed to get our voting rights back in where they should be for all people. I do have some sheets that I always prepare when I work with various groups. I always share with people how they can get to their county clerk's office. And I'm sure you all probably do too, Marcellus, how to get in contact with your county clerk's office. And we have several different things that we use during the year. Like when we all vote, you can fill that little box out electronically, and it'll tell you where you go to vote. And this year, NAACP has introduced a new similar type format. It's called vote.org, and we'll be sharing that, Marcellus, when we go to another training. But the national NAACP is working with that national organization, trying to help people know without having to call your clerk's office. But if not, you can call your clerk's office and say, hey, I need to know where my voting site is. And they should be rolling out, once the redistrict is all done for all areas, they're resend out voter cards to the public to let them know this is your new voting site. Guys, I believe that's kind of pretty much where we are today, is that, just knowing how to advocate, try to have a better understanding. I know it's been a challenge for me this year, but I was more interested in learning a little bit more about redistricting that I didn't know before. So it's definitely been a learning curve, and it still is a learning curve. It's still a lot to try to understand. Marcellus, I believe that is it for me. And if y'all have any other questions, if I can't answer, I'll find someone that can.
This was very informative. I really appreciate it. And I also put a link in the chat, garlandcountyvote.org. We have a former election commissioner on the line with us, Mr. Elmer Beard.
Hi, Mr. Beard.
Yeah, he's on. He served on the election commission, so
yes,
informed of what was going on as relates to Garland County. But the garlandcountyvote.org will list those polling places and all of the other relevant information, so you can be apprised of what's going on. So, and Mr. Chris also shared the map that has been proposed.
Yes,
Clearly, where they are divvying up Pulaski County. Where we are, Garland County is kind of left, as it is, but clearly, blatantly, trying to diffuse those African-American and other minority votes. And we touched on this during our state conference convention last week, that how they get away with it is that people don't speak up and they don't voice the opposition. And so we're going to talk about how to voice that a little bit later on in the course of today's meeting, but you did a very good job of laying out the framework of this redistricting process. And like you said, it's very high stakes in terms of the money that's allocated and resources. And so everybody should be hip to what's going on. Does anybody have any questions?
I thought Miss Esther Dixon, don't you serve on one of the committees, I believe? I thought I remembered.
Yes, ma'am. I am. Good morning. Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon. And thank you so much for speaking today. I enjoyed everything that you had to present. Yes, I am currently the District 3 Justice of the Peace. I'm serving in my second term. So this is my first time being a JP during the redistricting. Our redistricting, we are not responsible for that, but we are able to be a part of the listening process and voicing our opinion. But the election commission is who's going to orchestrate that, which is a little bit different than the city. The city is more hands-on, the districting for their portion. but the
Mhm.
county works with the election commission, or the election commission does that.
Okay.
And then I'm also was a part of the census. I
Okay.
was the liaison for the county for the Arkansas State Census Committee. So we all talked about that during the census time, how important it is to complete our census and how it played a major role in this redistricting. So I think with that, that has made everyone aware of the importance of the census, the importance of speaking up and being a vocal community member and an advocate for the community, because silence can be deadly.
Yes.
And education is power.
Yeah.
So it's important to educate the community of their voice is important.
Yes, I agree. And with you saying what you've said right now, it brought a thought to me, and I'm trying to think of what I was going to say about that. Oh, you know that it was a lot of growth in the northwest part of the state, which has caused a lot of the growth in the northwest, the loss of votes in kind of the eastern borders, you know, because we looked at that, the eastern borders over to Jefferson County and back down, there was a loss of voters, you know, because it was voter shifting or people moving from one area to another.
Yes.
So
yes.
that has a lot of bearings on the shifting in, you know, city to city.
Absolutely.
And populations. Yeah, the population shifts.
Absolutely. And the numbers are going to be a little bit skewed also because of the COVID deaths, but we probably won't see that until the next census, unfortunately.
Well, that's true. We have a metro mapping group, and I got my metro mapping piece out. It's like Metro Trends Economic Review and how they look at the cities, you know, how cities, that's kind of a city thing.
There's a metro partnership that the city and the Chamber of Commerce hits up.
Right. And I just want to share a couple of things about that. I was in my book because I normally would just throw them aside and not look at them that much, but it's critical to, you know, the metro mapping piece that's kind of, that comes out from your city government that's done. And it's interesting to see dealing with, you know, like some of the deaths and the COVID and all of that. It has a lot to do with the shifting and funding for your cities and that kind of thing. But it showed, for instance, like areas like Jefferson, even Hot Springs, Fort Smith, I was kind of surprised at because they had a lot of, you know, the deaths in those areas was a higher
So what is
percentage and that kind of thing.
So what is this that you're looking at? Could you show the cover or what?
Oh, it's called Metro Trends.
Okay.
Metro Trends.
Okay. Is that something that Little Rock has put together?
Yeah, Little Rock sends this out. It's called Metro Plan.
Okay. Well, I will get with the city Metro partnership and see if I can get some copies to share with the group here.
Yes, it's a lot of good information in there.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. I will get with the city's Metro partnership and see if we can get some copies for everyone here so we can be ahead of the game as well.
Because it talks about housing and some different things that's all a part of the economic part of what we deal with in our cities and how things are funded, even with the census and the number of people. And really, they had said with the census that Arkansas had a growth in the census, although some people were saying that it was questionable in some of the areas, maybe where they didn't get the census numbers. But I know in Pulaski County, we did pretty good. And I'm not sure about your county without, looking at that. But those are some of the things that's important to kind of talk about.
From what I understand, we did pretty good as well, but I don't think it's going to affect us. It's not going to impact us in a negative way, but we did do pretty good as far as having our numbers reflective of the previous years.
I would say if we missed anybody, it wasn't because of Esther Dixon, because she was out on the page. Sure.
But I will. Thank you so much. I will say this though, as far as the redistricting, as everyone is aware, as far as the city goes, it will be impactful for a couple of our city directors because where they live, not so much the district that they are over or that they manage, but where they live. There, if they go with the certain mapping process that they have come up with, 2 of our city directors will be in a district of one of their cohorts.
Wow.
So and what you had mentioned earlier, they don't want any, I just went blank. They don't want any directors running against each other.
Incumbents,
incumbents. Yeah, they don't want incumbents running against each other. They're trying to avoid that because if you have one person that's in district, I'm just going to say one. If you have one person in district 1, you don't want them unnecessarily running against district 2 if you don't have to. That way, it won't be an issue with that. But there may be a situation where we may have 2 city directors that may very well have to either retire or run against that incumbent.
Okay.
Because they're surely not going to move, I wouldn't think, because they really they don't get paid.
I don't want to just take over your meeting, but thank you for this opportunity. I hope I've been an asset to your conversation. I don't know it all. I'm still learning.
Yes, ma'am. We really, well, I know I did, and I'm sure everyone else did, and it was very informative. So we thank you so much. And I'm sure that we'll be contacting you or trying to get some more information. But again, I will get some information on that Metro partnership to get us some catalogs so we can be able to be equipped as well.
Okay.